Let us continue this course on online courses and blended courses. In this video, we will talk about blended mode courses in particular. We have seen how online courses operate, and here we'll get into the details of understanding how to deliver blended learning mode courses. So what is blended learning? Okay, so blended learning, as the name indicates, it combines online learning with face-to-face, in-person learning, right? So which means that we would like to get the best of both worlds of the online learning as well as the classroom experience of for the learners. So we also call this as a hybrid or mixed mode learning, because there are elements of both the online teaching as well as the in-class teaching gets incorporated here. Which also means that we will get the best of both worlds. We have already seen, when we looked at the online courses in detail, all the benefits that we get in the digital delivery of content and classes, but we cannot ignore the benefits of the traditional methods of classroom learning. So if you want to have the best of both the worlds, then blended learning is an ideal model. Now, how did the blended learning concept evolve, right? And I think I briefly mentioned in one of the earlier videos as well, right? So in India, at least, we have seen this concept of open education, open universities being set up, right? And in that open university concept, the material is delivered by post to all the learners, and what they will also do is they will conduct what are known as contact classes in different locations of the country, and even within the city there could be multiple locations where such contact classes are conducted. So that is the blended version, wherein instead of the digital delivery of the content, so we deliver it through the more traditional methods of learning material, printed learning material delivered through postage, right? So that is essentially the onset of this kind of blended learning mode, because this also again opens up opportunities for people to learn, anywhere, anytime. That is essentially the broad essence of any asynchronous learning that we would like to deliver. So what are the key features of blended learning? It combines synchronous and asynchronous learning activities, right? So synchronous learning activity, as we saw, those activities wherein the instructor and the learners are in sync with each other. In sync means what? In terms of the time, right? So they are all interacting simultaneous, with each other in synchronous mode, right? So if you talk about a live online session, that is an example of synchronous learning, or even synchronous learning inside the classroom, right? So wherein the teacher and the students are there in the classroom is also an example of synchronous learning. And asynchronous activities or learning are those things which the students do, without being in touch with the instructor at the time of doing that particular activity. So, examples include watching videos recorded by the instructor at the convenience of the learner. Just like in online mode, even blended learning enables flexible student control over the place, time, and pace at which the students want to learn, right? Because these benefits come from the point of view of there being a significant online content in the blended learning mode. Yes, it does require intentional design of the online and in-person components. So it has to be done. It has to be a conscious course design activity, wherein we have to look at which components are suitable for online mode and which components are suitable for asynchronous in-person mode. Now, there are a good number of benefits of blended learning. Instead of relying exclusively on online courses or exclusively or in-class courses, blended learning offers enormous amount of benefits, right? So, if you recall, one of the criticisms of online learning, especially asynchronous online learning, say for example through recorded lectures alone, has faced significant amount of criticism because the student engagement is not visible. I will not say there is no student engagement, but we never really know to what extent student engagement is happening. And from the students' perspective also, they feel that online, especially asynchronous online learning, does not offer any synchronous interaction with the instructor, with the peer learners, and so on. Now, all these limitations can be overcome if you follow the blended learning, right? So, which means that increased student engagement and interaction is made possible even to a limited extent in the blended learning model. Okay, and of course, it does provide the enhanced accessibility and flexibility, because as I said, even in blended learning, a significant portion of the learning happens through online content. So, the moment you bring in online content, especially if you make it asynchronous as well, then it definitely enhances the availability, accessibility, and of course, consequently, the flexibility available to the learners. And importantly, blended learning also supports diverse learning styles and pacing, right? You compare it with, say, the classroom in-class teaching, exclusive in-class teaching mode. So, we expect the delivery has to happen to the entire class of 30, 60, 90, 100, whatever be the case, right? It has to happen in a unified manner, right? So, which you expect that all the students are at the same grasping level, and the pace at which you deliver has to be optimized to suit both the fast learners as well as those who need additional time to grasp the concepts. And so that has got its own limitations, but blended learning gives a very nice mix of for the so-called fast learners, the online components will go through in a breeze, and for those who need additional help, the asynchronous offline component gives them additional support, while at the same time the online itself can be taken up at their own pace. So, it has been shown that blended learning definitely delivers better learning outcomes compared to fully online or fully face-to-face modes. Let us try to understand a few models of blended learning. Once again, there are a good number of flexibility that is available in how you can embrace this blended learning models, right? So, we will talk about the four blended learning models: the flipped classroom model, the rotation model, flex model, and enriched virtual model. In the flipped classroom model, the learners are given access to the session material before the in-person class, right? So, when I say given access to the session material, the session learning content is what I mean, and the learning content itself could be in the form of videos, recorded videos, it could be in the form of pre-reading material, it could also be in the form of pre-activities that they are expected to complete, right? Now, this is augmented with an in-class, in-person experience wherein both the learner and the instructor come together to review what was given as pre-session activities, right? So, again, if the pre-session activities happens to be a video that they are expected to watch, so the classroom time is spent on discussing what was presented in that online activity. On the other hand, if the pre-classroom activity was for them to solve a problem or go through some reading material, then you take up that reading material and then you go around the class trying to gauge what is their understanding of that particular learning material, or just to see what is the activity that they have performed and provide feedback on the activity that was performed before the class. So what is the benefit that it gives us? So the learning of the pre-material happens at a self-paced mode, right? So they would have had the opportunity to go through that whole thing, go through the video, go through the learning material which you would have given it in the form of documents, or even doing that activity, whatever you have given. If you have given some 4 problems to be solved, so they can take their time to solve that problem, and once they come to the classroom, they are well prepared for the discussion. Okay, so which means that this also enables the opportunity for the teachers to give personalized attention, right? Because especially if you have given some activities to be done, each one would have completed it in their own way, so the teachers will get an opportunity to review that and give them personalized feedback and attention to that. So this is the flipped classroom model. Obviously, there are a few important prerequisites that are required to be satisfied before you can see success in the flipped classroom model. One is the fact that you have to very carefully plan what is the pre-classroom activity that you want to provide, right? So if it is a video, it has to be recorded appropriately for that particular topic, so that it can be taken up for discussion in one classroom sitting, right? So we have to plan. So now it is, it is possibly, I would say now, if suppose you have a 45-minute in-classroom session, and for that 45-minute in-classroom session, you cannot be giving a 90-minute video to watch, right? So it has to be balanced appropriately, so that we can have meaningful discussions happening in the classroom. And of course, I'm not ruling out 90-minute videos as pre-reading, because especially if it happens to be a fundamental nature of the video, which is without too much complexity, then no, it is reasonable to expect that 45-minute discussion on a 90-minute video is a reasonable amount of time. Okay, so again, you have to weigh it in based on the complexity of the topic that is being put out as pre-learning activity, and also it depends upon how much time you have set aside for that classroom, in-person classroom experience for that particular session, right? So, but flipped classrooms have been successfully used in many educational settings, especially for higher education. It does require a good amount of discipline on part of the learners as well. So if you have given some amount of pre-reading material, you have to expect that they do complete it before coming into the classroom. And in my own little experience, once we tried, so students will they don't understand what is his flipped classroom, right? So they treat the regular classroom interaction as a regular classroom without going through the pre-reading material. So that may require a little bit of guidance to ensure the effectiveness of the flipped classroom model. Again, to overcome that particular challenge of students not coming well prepared and so on, we could actually have a specific rotation model, right? In rotation model, the learning activity alternates between in-person and in-class, right, as per a fixed schedule. So what you do is that you do provide the same pre-learning material that you would give in a flipped classroom model, but then you kind of segregate the some portion of the activity which is necessarily done in the in-person model. So for example, as I said, in the flipped classroom model, the pre-activity for this in-class session could be anything, but instead of making it anything, what you do is that you will say that this pre-recorded lecture is a pre-classroom activity, whereas the problem solving happens inside the classroom, right? In our Indian education context, we call them as tutorial sessions. So those tutorial sessions can be held in person, whereas the pre-learning that has to happen to be able to solve those problems, that could be given as a video, right? So that is, but then all of this happens in a fixed schedule, which means that you can say that there will be, in a week, if you are conducting, say, 2 sessions, we can say that one session will happen in an offline asynchronous mode, wherein they are expected to go through some a video, a recorded video, whereas the second session for that particular week will complement, right, which will not be a repetition of that online, but it will complement the online activity. In fact, the rotation model enables those activities which are actually not possible or difficult to do in online mode, right? So, if there is a lab activity that you want to do, the traditional lab activity, there will be specified equipment that needs to be used and so on. So that the theory associated with that lab can be done as a pre-recorded lecture, whereas once they come into the in-class mode, which will actually be an in-lab mode using the equipment that is present in the laboratory. So rotation model works well for lab-intensive courses because some of those activities cannot be done online. Now, we also have the flex model. So, in the flex model, what happens? Most of the instruction is delivered online with in-person support being provided as needed. Okay, so which means that there is no fixed schedule for the like in the flipped classroom, there is a fixed schedule of in-person interaction, and there is a fixed schedule for release of pre-session videos and so on. In the flex model, the students will progress on their at their own pace and follow their individualized learning paths, but the teachers are available, the instructors are available for one-on-one or small group help in the classroom. Now, this we could even call this as an office hour, but generally office hours are generalized time where we are available in our office room for students to walk in across multiple courses. This could be considered as a specialized office hours, wherein we will say that the instructor will be available from this time to this time to discuss, to provide any help associated with this specific course, right? So this gives them good amount of flexibility to the learners, and not everybody needs to avail this particular option. So only those who feel the need to discuss, they can show up and so why is it still considered as blended learning? Because this is available, and we can even say that this, from a timetable point of view for this particular course, this is the time that is set aside for doubt resolution. Now, let's, in this particular model, the model emphasizes a good amount of student autonomy and flexible schedules, right? So even the flexibility for the schedule is available for the instructors as well. Finally, the enriched virtual model. Okay, so the enriched virtual model is similar to the flex model, but in general, when we talk about the blended learning mode, the blending happens with the blending of the online versus in-person in-class mode. Now, the enriched virtual takes a slightly different view of the blended learning. It provides a blending of synchronous versus asynchronous learning, without necessarily forcing the synchronous learning to happen in the classroom, in the physical setup. Right? So, it is similar to the flex model in the sense that there are asynchronous learning content that is available, but the synchronous interaction is enabled in online mode without forcing people, right, to come to the classroom or come to meet with the instructor in person in the office room. Right. So, which means that this synchronous learning serves the same purpose of one-to-one interaction, right, a one-to-one or a small group interaction, but more importantly, it provides synchronous interaction. Okay. Now, enriched virtual is possibly the only model that is available, that is possible in a blended learning setup, especially if the learners are geographically distributed. Right. Suppose you are, as part of the continual professional education, you are offering a course for working professionals, right. So, if you are offering a course for working professionals who are in different parts of the country, then the only option available is this enriched virtual model, wherein you do provide lots of recorded videos, but then you conduct live online sessions in synchronized mode for achieving the same benefits of the synchronous interaction. So, it could be for doubt clearing, or it could be for problem solving in tutorial mode, it could be anything. So, you try to enrich the pre-recorded content with additional information, additional support that you provide, or even additional personalization. Okay. So, these are the different models that can be used to deliver a course in blended learning mode. So, blended learning can find a good amount of application for engineering education. As I said, especially this can nicely complement the theory components where the labs have to be conducted in person because of limitations of the equipment availability and so on. And even project work can be enabled when you are following the blended learning mode, right. So, virtually in engineering education, we do put in a lot of effort in students gaining knowledge by learning by doing, right. So, this learning by doing is enabled through project work. And so, the lab kind of a setup or the personal interaction with the instructor can enhance the effectiveness of the project work that is being done. And of course, the simulations, even if you want to do, for example, when we talked about the multiple modes, right. So, we talked about the enriched virtual mode. So, in the enriched virtual mode, you can do simulations. We talked about virtual labs that are being available, wherein we can provide specific hands-on activities in synchronous mode, even though they are not present in a classroom. Okay. Definitely, collaborative and problem-based learning is possible if you follow the blended learning mode. Like any online learning mode, blended learning mode is not without its challenges. So, we do have the challenge of balancing the online versus the face-to-face time, right. Especially the face-to-face activity involves synchronous learning. So, if depending upon the nature of your course, if your course happens to be like I just mentioned, if it involves working professionals, then finding the suitable time becomes a challenge, and especially if you offer a very popular global course, then matching the time zone also becomes a bit of a challenge when you are dealing with blended learning. Now, blended learning will have significant synchronous content, which most faculty members, if not all faculty members, are comfortable and convenient with. But if you want to adapt the blended learning mode, obviously the faculty members need to be ready to use online tools, because this is a different variation of online learning, right? So which means that the faculty members need to be comfortable using online tools, should be comfortable recording videos and using other online tools. And on top of it, if you are going to offer it in a enriched virtual mode, which means that there is absolutely no physical interaction available, but everything will happen. So which means an additional level of comfort will be required to use online tools for that collaborative learning teaching process. We will need infrastructure to deliver these courses. Definitely internet will be a prerequisite. On top of it, the necessary hardware, if you want to know all the hardware that we talked about for online courses, will be necessary even in blended learning mode. Okay. Student adoption also is an important part of it, right? When I was talking about the flipped classroom, I was telling you, students also need to be sensitized that depending upon whichever learning mode is concerned, it may be useful to conduct a specific orientation session for them in synchronous mode to tell them how is it that this particular course will be delivered, and which of the 4 models you will be using for this course, and how should students be prepared to work through this particular model. You have to clearly tell them whichever model, blended learning model you are using, what is their responsibility, what are the tasks that they have to complete before they show up for the synchronous interaction session, right? So all these aspects have to be, students have to be given orientation on all these aspects for blended learning mode to succeed, right? One is the different logistical aspects of it, and in some cases even telling them about the tools that you will be using, telling them about the tools that they are expected to use. All of these aspects have to be incorporated into that orientation session. Now, from a preparation perspective for the blended mode delivery, first is to plan. Now, how do you want to integrate the online and offline activities? Okay, so as I said, this cannot be an afterthought. For example, if you have already delivered a course which is fully online, well, the amount of preparation that you will need may be less, but it requires planning and thought as well. So which means that if you have 90-minute, if you have recorded 90-minute videos, then you may want to break them down into smaller chunks and offer them as sessions and deliver them as pre-session activities. And then you have to exactly think through on what do you want to do in that 30-minute in-person synchronous interaction. Okay, without proper planning, what may happen is that you will open up you will show up in the classroom, and both the teacher and the students could be looking at each other because you didn't really plan what do you want to do in this particular session, which means that if you expect that students would have gone through the videos and then they will start asking questions, be prepared to be surprised that they may not be forthcoming with the questions. So you may have to prepare for some leading questions. So that may still involve preparing some slides, prompting certain questions which are based on the pre-learning content, pre-session content that you have given them. So don't underestimate the need to prepare for that synchronous session as well, although you have delivered a recording content. Okay, and we do have to set very clear expectations, right? So you have to tell the students that there is no way that you will be repeating the content that was already delivered in the online, as pre-recorded lectures, because students will expect. There will be some smart students who would have quickly rush through it and then ask questions in a way that will that will require you to repeat everything that you had already shared in the recorded video. So that requires handling those kind of situations. So instead of repeating the entire video, you can say that, okay, in that particular video, in this segment of that video, I have already answered that question. Please go through that. And if you still have any further questions, we can discuss that. Okay. So which means that we also have to establish very clear communication channels. What you can also say is that they don't even have to wait for this classroom interaction in case they have doubts. You can also open up some forums wherein they can post the questions before coming to the class as well. See, one is to provide recorded videos before they come to the class. What you can also do is you can post pre-questions, right? So even before coming to the class, you can ask them to post their questions on those pre-recorded videos, because that may also give the instructor an option to be better prepared, right? So instead of suddenly being asked a question that may require some amount of preparation to respond, you can create a specific channel asking them to post the questions before coming to the classroom. Okay, so that also may be required for very complex topics which you may or may not be able to immediately respond to that, right? Especially if there is a complex mathematical kind of a problem that you want to pose, right? So all of a sudden, if a student asks that particular question, it may not be possible all the time to be able to respond to that. So you set clear expectations and set some additional communication channels for interacting. Right, both the students and the teachers need to be trained on the tools and methods for enabling this particular communication, right? Again, at the end of the day, it is all about communicating in synchronous mode or asynchronous mode. Okay, so blended learning mode courses are very successful. They are very useful, especially where you have diversity in your learners, right? So as I said, diversity in the learners can come in many different forms. It can come in the form of different levels of learning, and it can also come in different space and time, right? So if you have if you are offering courses in continual professional education for working professionals, then blended learning is possibly the only effective option that you will have to do, because you may not have learners who will come physically at the same time to the classroom, and even so you may have to choose among the 4 learning models. You may have to choose a combination of them. So you may say that you will do a flipped classroom mode in enriched virtual mode, right? So you may have to combine both of them. So that requires a bit of a planning and so on. And definitely successful delivery of courses in blended learning mode requires meticulous planning. Okay, so what we will see in the next video is looking into the specific aspects of delivering courses in blended online learning mode.